Should we wait for Lisa or should we go ahead and get started? Oh, there she is. All right, friends, well, it's 7:01. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can I have someone do attendance?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up. I could just do it.
Lisa.
Yes. Bess Bailey.
Here.
Jessica Loya.
Here.
Tara Adler.
Here.
Daniel Trotter.
Here.
Yvonne Salinas.
Here.
Gabriela Flores.
Present.
April.
I'm here.
And Brady Alexander.
Right here.
Great, then let's move straight into the approval of the minutes. April, do you have those available for us?
I do. It just takes them forever to load. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, minutes for the April 1st, 2021. The meeting was called to order at 7 o'clock. Come on, I got pop-ups here. In attendance was Jessica Loya, Brandy Alexander, Daniel Trotter, Gabby Flores, myself, April Jones, Yvonne Salinas, and Tara Adler. Lisa Tull called attendance. Bess Bailey was absent. The minutes were read and approved. No public comments were received or submitted. The committee discussed the ways of supporting minority citizens and business owners, including compiling a directory of minority-owned businesses and options for community gatherings. Committee members came up with ideas for spreading the word about the EIC. Among the suggestions were announcement and flyers at events hosted by the NKC Parks and Rec Department. Lisa Tull requested $240 for gift cards as a thank you gift to citizens who participate in the People of NKC project. Before airing a video for the project featuring an interview with a member of the NKC community, Jess Loya will submit content collected for the People of NKC project prior to the formation of the EIC for the purpose of continuing the project. Daniel Trotter provided the committee members with a mock-up of the EIC website and opened the discussion for feedback. Tara Adler informed the committee meeting about her upcoming meeting with the city clerk from Independence about their Human Relations Commission and invited other members to attend or submit questions. Eric Berlin advised committee members about the possibility of moving from virtual to in-person meetings and the opportunity to submit requests for proclamations to city council. Committee members discussed ideas for outreach, improving community relations, increasing communication between the community and its government, including the NKC Police Department. Eric Berlin will reach out to Chief Freeman to invite a representative of NKC PD to attend our next meeting. The committee reviewed plans and progress for the strategic plan, including the process for hiring outside consultants. And the meeting was adjourned at 8:26 p.m.
Thanks, April. Can we do a roll call for approval?
Yeah. Bess Bailey. Jessica Loya.
Yes.
Tara Adler.
Yes.
Daniel Trotter.
Yes.
Yvonne Salinas.
Yes.
Gabby Flores.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Brandy Alexander
Yes.
and April Jones.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. All right. Do we have any community comments?
Brian DeLong, you can unmute yourself and begin to speak.
Can you hear me? Perfect. I'll be very brief so you can get on to the important work of your meeting here. I just wanted to hop on real quick and introduce myself. I believe I know many of you already, but not all of you. I'm Brian DeLong, the new mayor here in North Kansas City. It was important for me to get on tonight and just connect with you guys really quick. Our boards and commissions play an important role in helping shape the future of our community, and I believe it's especially true with this committee. I do watch most of your meetings, and I look forward to working with the Equity Inclusion Committee and seeing the positive impact you make on our community. I will close with just saying thank you. Thank you for your service to the city, and I hope you guys have a good meeting. I would add, I heard proclamations. I will be proclaiming June as Pride Month in North Kansas City as well, so we'll go ahead and get that one out there. But other than that, I'll get out of your guys' way so you can get to your important work. Thank you, everyone, for your service.
Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yeah, please use the raise your hand feature if you are an attendee and would like to speak. I don't believe anybody else is raising their hand.
Thanks, Stephen. Let's go ahead and move into our community or our questions with Chief Freeman. I know April compiled a list of those. Chief Freeman, if you'd like to take a minute to introduce yourself, and then we'll start with those questions we have prepared.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mhm.
Very good. My name is Kevin Freeman. I'm the Chief of Police here in North Kansas City. Been with the department over 24 years now. Been the police chief for just over a year, appointed January of 2020. So I appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the Q&A tonight. And if anything from the end of the night, if anybody ever has any questions of me, just feel free to give me a call, stop by the office, anything. I'm completely open and willing to discuss any matters at most times. So.
Thank you so much. Give me just a second and I can pull up the questions unless someone else has them and wants to get us started.
I have them pulled up, but if you were going to share your screen and do it so that people can follow along, that's fine too. You want me to just start with the first one?
If you can get started, I will get them pulled up and share my screen.
Absolutely. Okay, so the first question was about having scheduled routine police community town halls to discuss community concerns and to collaborate on solutions.
Sure. So, I mean, my answer to that question is, the police department is always open to invitations to productively engage with our community. Some of the things we've done in the past, we've hosted or co-hosted several community engagement events, Coffee with a Cop, events like that over the last few years. We've participated always when asked in neighborhood forums that were organized by the residents, open forum discussions with the students of the North Kansas City High School. We've been doing that for 4 years now. We go into the high school, getting ready to do that here in a couple of weeks. But we go into the high school and just have an open chat with the students of the high school. Anything that they would ever want to ask a police officer, given the opportunity, those turn into some very interesting discussions. I'm sure you can imagine. But and then we've participated in several events facilitated by the Business Council here in North Kansas City to discuss concerns of the community. Like I kind of said at the outset, if any questions or concerns ever arise with policies or practices here in North Kansas City, I'm happy to address them at any time outside of any scheduled meeting.
Jess, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we can agree to like some scheduled community forums, potentially a few times a year, with some follow-up with the Equity and Inclusion Committee. I know last year, Bryant DeLong had submitted a resolution for more community involvement and commitment. Essentially, I believe made a commitment on your behalf that we would have more forums, like essentially more involvement from the police department. And I'm just trying to see if we can get some clear scheduled like yearly engagements that people can know when they're happening and that they're, annual. So we have a few a year.
I mean, again, I'm completely happy doing that. I just want to make sure that they're productive more than anything. I don't want to waste, our officers' time, your time, anybody's time showing up and unfortunately, sometimes answering the same questions over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, engaging with the community is a key, it's a mission. It's in our strategic plan. It's our mission to get that done. And we have to have quality policing has to have positive partnerships with our community. we can't do it without them. We can't police effectively without the community. And if we don't know what's going on and what the concerns of the residents and the business community are, then we can't do our jobs effectively. So, I mean, to answer your question, I'm completely open to an annual forum, and I know you were there at the first one, and we'll try not to schedule it when it's 110 degrees and make it a little bit nicer weather for everybody. So, but that was a sign of we need to do something quickly then. So that's why we did that one then. But yeah, absolutely.
Great. I'm just going to keep going down the list. Can you better describe the role and essential functions of the community officer?
Sure. So we have a unit per se for a small department. It is a COPS unit. The acronym stands for Community Oriented Policing and Problem Solving. That unit is staffed by 2 people full-time when staffing allows. During the summertime, our school resource officer also transitions to a COPS officer. So that gives us 3 during the summertime. But the essential duties of the COPS unit, it just lives in their title. It's problem solving. They're asked to conduct follow-up on issues that cannot generally be solved in a call for service. So something that just gets passed on from a call from a previous shift that just needs further follow-up. Some examples include, obviously, but not limited to, neighborhood disputes, property maintenance issues, crime prevention strategies, landlord-tenant disputes, coordinating mental health resources. These are some of the things that these officers do. As far as they have the ability, and they have the ability to use several different patrol mechanisms. So they can be in a car, just like all the other patrol officers if there's inclement weather. They have access to bicycles. They have access to all-terrain vehicles. And the reason behind those is to just make them more accessible to the public. And obviously they can just be out on foot patrol also. Generally, it's our COPS officers that we call on to attend community events in North Kansas City. If they can't make it, and it's supplemented by our patrol officers. So that said, the problem solving philosophy, it doesn't exclusively live in our COPS unit. Every new member we interview when we're going through the onboarding and the hiring process understands that it's our goal for our entire department to work as community officers every chance they get. Did that effectively answer your question? I want to make sure I cover what you were trying to learn there.
This is Gabby Flores. Thanks for being here. That was my question. I wasn't familiar with the community officer here. And so I just wanted to get a better sense of kind of their scope and role and how it's different from a regular officer. Do the community officers or the COPS have relationships with our homeless community that's in our area? Do they do any intentional outreach or, just check-ins with folks?
I would say that's not something that they've done in the past, but if there's a need for it, it's definitely within their purview. It's something I would easily be able to task them to do. They were, throughout the last few weeks with some of the houseless individuals that were staying here in North Kansas City, our COPS officers were over there working hand in hand with the hotel and making sure that their needs were addressed, and so were the rest of the community's needs at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sure.
Jess, go ahead.
Do the COPS officers receive more training than the regular officers in different aspects of community policing, or is it basically the same?
Yeah, there is some specialized training that goes in with being a COPS officer. Excuse me. A lot of it, one of the acronyms that falls in their area of expertise is CPTED. It's crime prevention through environmental design. So when we talk about surveys, property surveys, business surveys to help people in crime prevention strategies, that's one of the things that they will attend also. I'm blanking on the other one that we typically send them to. There is a COPS specific training also. It's a nationwide model. We didn't invent it, obviously, but it's something that it came about in the late 80s to be problem-oriented policing, community-oriented policing. It has a bunch of different acronyms, but basically it all means the same thing.
Okay. So all officers aren't trained in that, and it's not, so I know, I mean, this is somewhat unrelated, but we have the CIT officers, and I think what we said 40% of our officers, or less than that, were CIT trained. So why aren't all officers cops trained? I guess I'm just saying, if it's like extra learning, extra figuring out how to do some problem solving, why is it just 2/3 sometimes officers?
Well, it's a specialized unit, and that's part of the reason you go to specialized training to fulfill the mission of the specialized unit. Much like the traffic unit will go to crash investigation school. Not all officers go to full-on crash investigation school. Our investigators will go to interview and interrogation techniques and crime scene processing and stuff like that. Not everybody does that. I mean, it's a time and energy and space question also, because not all of this training is held locally. So there's a cost to send people out of town to participate in the training also. And so that's generally why once someone's seated in that chair, in that unit, either prior to or just shortly thereafter is when we start to get them the training involved with that unit.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our next question, and there is some context to read with it as well. Given the most recent incident in Minnesota, are there any discussions about reviewing Taser policies similar to what Roland Park has done? For context, the policy states that all Roland Park police officers will cross-draw their tasers to ensure that there is no mistake between firearm and the taser. The taser will be carried on the opposite side of the body than the firearm, with no exceptions.
Sure, that was the easiest one that I had. So since our Taser policy inception, we've had that in writing. It states officers shall carry the Taser device on a weak side holster or on the opposite side of the duty weapon. So that is almost standard practice when you go into a training with Taser specifically. There are other electric control devices out there, Taser being the most widely known and widely recognized as a brand. You know, much like when you say soda or Coke, and everybody thinks Kleenex and all that nonsense. But Taser is the widely known brand, and our trainers go to them to become our in-house trainers, and that is what they train on. So that is what we bring back to our officers. They're either going to cross draw on their weak side, or if they carry it some officers carry it in a leg holster, but it's always on the weak side.
Thank you. The next question, police shootings of Black and brown people are all over the news again. How is the police department going to ensure that we don't end up there? What can the Equity and Inclusion Committee do to support the police department around these issues?
So we kind of went from the easiest question of the night to the hardest question of the night. There's not a good answer there. There's just no way to ensure that any community will not be the next community, right? We're only one bad incident away from being that next community. And what we can do to prevent that, it's the term professional police service is what we strive for. It's in our mission statement. It's prominently displayed for each of our officers to see before they start work each day. That means we're working towards building a culture where we strive for professionalism and mutual respect during every interaction, even if we have to take someone to jail. My personal mantra, and I haven't always lived by this, we're not the same, I'm not the same person I am today that I was 24 years ago when I started. I'm not the same police officer I am, but treat everybody like you would want a member of your family treated in a similar situation. Just because someone, just because they committed a crime, made a mistake, or a houseless person, or whatever it is, that doesn't mean they're less of a person. And if we treat everyone with professionalism and respect, that's our goal, then there should never be a situation that escalates to the type of violence that has seen and been occurring across the country.
Can I follow up to that question? So as of now, like what data do we have that is publicly available? If potentially there were incidents in the past, like we saw with Derek Chauvin, his very long track record of police misconduct. And I'm just wondering do we have data like that here in North Kansas City? Or do you guys keep track of data like that if officers are like there's a report filed against an officer? Do those all go somewhere, and is that accessible by anybody in the public or just you guys?
Probably more of an HR question there, but those are personnel records. They're part of an employee's personnel file. So that is, to my understanding, not a public record in Missouri right now. Things can change, but we do keep track of all of our documented uses of force, and a use of force can range from, I'm going to raise my voice and talk loudly to you to deadly force. And those are all tracked. We've been doing that for a number of years now. Aside from just saving them and putting them in a file, now we collate the data and pay attention to it. And we've been doing that for the last 6 or 7 years now, at least now. Aside from that, we started participating last year in the National Use of Force database collected by the FBI. So that's new for us. They don't collect to the same specificity that we do. They want more of the high-end stuff, the lethal force data on their collections. But I mean, the answer in those use of force reports are also considered internal documents.
Okay, so say you had an officer that had like an excessive use of force, is that something that then you would flag and, discuss with them or discuss with the police and fire board? So like, how does that work for you guys? I know you keep all the information and you have all the data, but does that data get utilized often?
So if there's a documented use of force that is determined to be outside of our policy or our practice, then that's going to result in some form of discipline to that officer. So discipline can be as little as, please don't do it that way again. That was really, you did counseling, verbal counseling, all the way up to termination, depending on the severity of it. So that's
those decisions. Is that the police and fire board?
So no, those rely on my office. They have an appeal to the police and fire board if they choose to appeal, but the discipline is administered from the police chief's office.
Okay, one follow-up from a community member. Oh, I lost it. So I think it said, is it voluntary that there it is. Is it voluntary for departments to submit to the FBI database?
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
And then she said, if so, kudos to you guys for participating.
Thank you.
How is the North Kansas City Police Department actively reaching out to the community they police to build rapport and ensure that all people feel safe as they live, work, walk, and drive in the city? Follow-up to that is, what can the Equity and Inclusion Committee do to assist in this process?
I think the best way to answer that question, it kind of goes back to the community policing. How I kind of ended that one was with, it is our goal that every officer in our department has a community police officer philosophy, that they want to engage with the community, and they don't want to just roll their windows up on their police cars and drive around and just go to the next call for service. That nights like tonight is a great night to just park the car for a little bit, get out and walk around and engage with the community. But aside from that, what can the EIC do to assist? It's outreach, groups like this and us meeting together and talking and us understanding if there's an issue that we're missing, because we don't know what we don't know. And if someone brings it to our attention, then we can start working towards addressing that. And if there's a group, a subgroup, or anybody within the city that feels unsafe because of our police tactics, I want to meet with them personally. I want to talk to them. We want to make sure that there's not a misunderstanding, that people understand why we do what we do. That's a lot of what we do when we go into the high school is we speak to the young drivers in North Kansas City and say, this is why we do what we do. This is why we may pull you over. This is why we may ask you to get out of your car. These are the things that some new drivers don't always understand because they've never been in that situation before. So I just outreach. And your group is going to be, I feel, a partner in conducting some of that outreach and helping us, get into those areas that if it's a first generation immigrant to the country that just doesn't understand how policing works here. We need to educate them on that so they can feel comfortable in our community.
What training do officers go through to learn how to recognize and deal with individuals who may be having medical or mental health crises and people who are neurodivergent?
So for us right now, that's 100% lies in our crisis intervention training. That's the bread and butter for us to try to get officers to understand people in mental crisis and know the right number one, the right way to talk to them, approach them, and deal with them, and number two, to get the resources that they need for them. And it's not, these people, jail's not always the answer. Most of the time, it's not the answer ever. So we need to make sure that the resource that we have the ability to access those resources. So I think, like Jessica Loya said, we're in that 40% range right now for all of our officers having at least that basic CIT training, which is a 40-hour curriculum. I did share it with Mr. Berlin. I think he passed that on to you guys to see what that is. I can't speak to the class myself because it came along in a time and place that I was no longer a police officer anymore. So it's more beneficial, no longer a on the road police officer anymore. So it's more beneficial for the officers that are on the streets to have it. So I've not attended the class myself, but it's my goal to get as many people through the training as we can as those opportunities come about. It's not so easy for us. I mean, we're a small department. Every person that we take off the street for 40 hours, someone's got to cover for them. Their job just doesn't go uncovered. So, it takes a little bit of time, but it is something that I think we just had 8 in the most recent class that they did post-COVID. We had 8 attendees for that, from brand new police officers to very veteran police officers to first line supervisors attend that course. And the goal was to keep pumping those numbers up to get people through that training. We work very well with Tri-County Mental Health. There's a community interaction liaison with Tri-County Mental Health. Anytime that there's somebody we'll go back to the problem solving in the cops officers, if there's something that needs follow-up and someone in mental crisis that we don't necessarily have to deal with it right then and there, time and place, we call our liaison. They come down, they go with us, and we work together to get the help for the people that need it.
Bess, can I cut in for just a minute?
Please do.
This is not the most updated, so we've skipped a couple questions. Do you mind if I go back and fill those in?
Yes, absolutely. But before we do that, April, I think, has her hand raised. So April, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just one quick question. I'm sorry. Chief Freeman, you mentioned having to pull an officer away for those 40 hours. And that reminded me of another question I had was, what is the ratio right now of like how many officers per number of residents, like population, like one officer for every, 50 residents?
I believe it lies around, we are authorized for 41 sworn positions. And I think latest census estimates have the population around 4,500. So a little less than 1 to 100.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up about the CIT training? So it's a 40-hour training. We have 40% of officers trained. And you said, I think at the police forum, if I remember correctly, part of the issue was the staffing, but also that it only happens a couple of times a year. Am I correct?
That is correct. I think their goal probably most years is to have a minimum of 3 trainings.
Okay, and we're getting about 6 16 officers trained a year? Is that I mean, based on what you said, that like 8 were just trained, it was.
If we can, we will. Again, it depends on the staffing levels at the time, and this last course worked out well for us to get 8 people into it. I think that's probably an exception. I think a more reasonable number for us to move off of shifts and off of specialized units at any given time is 1 per shift, and maybe 1 out of a specialized unit. So that's 5 people, maybe a supervisor in there. So 6 might be an aggressive estimate. Even 8 was really good.
Okay.
In addition to the initial training of that 40 hours, is there any sort of additional professional development after that 40 hours is achieved?
Within the CIT model, they also have veteran CIT. There's peer support training included in some of that. And there's advanced CIT. So there's advanced, there's veteran CIT, and then there's peer support CIT.
Is CIT training up to the discretion of the officer, or are they just told you're going to get CIT trained?
To this point, it's been up to the discretion of the officer. But if it gets down to crunch time and we have people that still need to get trained that haven't raised their hand, they will be voluntold.
Okay.
Okay, so before we move on to the questions that we've missed, I just want to get some acronyms out of the way for anybody who's listening or following along. EIC that you see on the screen is for Equity and Inclusion Committee. And CIT, would you like to explain that, Chief Freeman?
It stands for Crisis Intervention Team.
Yes. And you're going to be seeing down a little lower BIPOC, which is Black and Indigenous People of Color. Do we want any more? Are there any other terms as I'm looking at this that we may want to define? Nope. Okay. All right. So one of the questions that we missed, oh goodness, I had it pulled up and now I don't, there it is. Okay. Is how do you seek to make Black, Indigenous people of color feel safe in your presence? And I think you've answered this. I mean, please answer again, but I believe that you've answered this with the training and part of your strategic plan, but go ahead, I'll let you answer.
Sure. I mean, it just comes back to professional, respectful service, police service. You know, we just can't control how someone feels in our presence, but if we're not the ones escalating a situation by raising our voice, being, you know, having our emotions out of control or anything like that, we're professional, we're courteous, we're respectful. That will put some, in my opinion, that will put someone at ease more than anything else.
Okay, and the next question, has there been any racial equality workshops that your officers have attended? You or your officers?
No, not that no, I don't believe so. Not in that form or fashion. I mean, we get racial sensitivity training annually. We've been doing so for a number of years, but as far as attending specific workshops like that, no.
Okay, and I think that puts us back on track, Beth.
Would attending racial sensitivity trainings be something that you or any of your officers would be willing to do?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
And you did say you guys did implicit bias. I remember at the forum, there were some things from the forum that you mentioned. I think you said that you guys had done some implicit bias like testing to figure out things like that. If I was correct, I don't remember.
Part of some of the racial profiling training that we attend has an implicit bias element to it.
Okay.
It was kind of in vogue for a while, and I noticed it seems to be kind of going away from that a little bit. So there's not as much emphasis on implicit bias in the current racial profiling training modules that are coming out, but it's something that definitely it's something that you should be aware of, right? I feel like everybody needs to be aware of what your implicit biases are. And that way you don't act negatively towards that bias, right? You recognize it and you work to work around it. Basically, you can't get rid of it. And an implicit bias is something that you were born with, not necessarily born with, but learned into your psyche because the work where you grew up, who you grew up with, your parents, your friends, and all that stuff, and your life lessons, for lack of a better term.
Daniel, go ahead.
Thanks. Kind of sticking with the implicit bias subject, I'm just a real firm believer that like our implicit biases can be perpetuated just by things as simple as like seemingly harmless jokes, imagery. And I saw this recently on the news where an officer tackled an elderly woman, and later it was kind of discovered that there was, a lot of laughing and celebrating even of the fact that happened. It was almost just seen as a joke in their unit, and this was far away from here. But at the end of the day, I understand the professionalism and the respectful nature that our department tries to have with our community. But can you confidently say that the NKC police culture is one where officers refrain from that kind of behavior, and also, they refrain from that kind of behavior around their colleagues, and would even be empowered to address that, like if they saw that happening?
I would believe that to be the case, sir. Many years ago, 2 chiefs ago, actually, you would walk into our locker room and there'd be funny haha jokes hanging up on each other's locker, and some of them insensitive and some of them inappropriate. And we're talking 17 to 20 years ago now. Those were taken down and they never came back. The culture changed in the department right then regarding those types of issues.
Well, the North Kansas City, did I already do this one? I think I've lost my place. So sorry.
We're
Well,
on
the
the
North Kansas City,
crime data one, I think, or data on crime.
okay, thanks. Well, the North Kansas City Police Department work with members of the Equity and Inclusion Committee to provide data on crime in North Kansas City, including traffic stops.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Any data that we have that is public data is available to anybody. And if whatever form or fashion that we want to try to work together to get it to you on, we'll work to get it to you on. Our traffic stops are reported annually to the Missouri Attorney General's office, as are most police agencies in the state of Missouri. And then our crime data for Part 1 crimes is reported annually to the FBI as well. So all that is published data. It can be found by anybody that wants to go look for it. On occasion, we'll even use the Northtown the newsletter that gets sent out to residents and businesses to put quarterly data in there, just to kind of show where we're at, time and place, with maybe where we were at the same period, prior years, prior months, prior whatever. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the easy answer to your question is if we got the data and it's public, we'll get it to you.
I am so sorry about my dog's cameo. Someone is taking a walk by my house. The next question is, what are the rates of BIPOC being pulled over? What is the top reason for these stops? What are the key trainings you're implementing to address de-escalation?
Okay, you mind if I go backwards on this one? So de-escalation training, ironically, it's our lesson this month on our online legal training. So we train, de-escalation was brought into that module post Ferguson, and when de-escalation became a hot topic in law enforcement. So that is trained on annually. Our use of force policy is reviewed and signed off annually. In that policy, it has an entire section on de-escalation. When we conduct our defensive tactics training, we review our use of force policy. That's separate from when we sign off on. So eyes are on it at least 2 times a year. if not more, but a minimum of 2 times a year. So, and another thing on the de-escalation is we have the opportunity to partner with Cerner. They have a firearms training simulator, and they bring it to us, and we conduct firearms simulations through these computer simulations. And the instructor can, and at our direction, will reward basically the officer's success in the scenario if they implement de-escalation techniques. So things that we try to back up in many different ways annually to make sure that our officers know that that's important to us. The question on the rates of the Black and Indigenous people of color, I have that data. It's not broken out into that format. I had a conversation with Ms. Toll yesterday because honestly, that was a relatively new term for me. So I had to look it up, make sure I knew what it was. But the data that we report is broke down into racial categories of white, African-American, Hispanic, American Indian, Asian, and other. So, I mean, I guess I'll ask for a little clarification on what exactly that you're looking for there. The rates are, so how the rates go, and if you go look at the Missouri Attorney General's office, the rates are compared to our population data. Just spoke about our population data is about 4,500, depending on the day, right? We stopped 4,608 cars last year. That's down 34% from the year before because we weren't stopping as many cars during the pandemic. We're trying to minimize our officers' exposure. Of those stops, of those 4,608 stops, only 6% of them was someone that either showed a residency in North Kansas City or told us they were a resident in North Kansas City. So 94% of the people that we stop are likely not residents of North Kansas City. So when you go to the Attorney General's site and look at that data, they're comparing it to our population data. And it looks very bad on North Kansas City. I'll be completely honest with you. That data looks bad because of the population and the numbers. So what we do and what we've done for years and what is kind of backed up now, this last year was the last year that we actually, the Attorney General asked all police agencies to have that checkbox, are you a resident of that community or not? That had never been in place before the prior 10, 15 years that we've been doing this. So that was the first year that I could provide that 6% number to you. But it shows us that we're stopping people at an overwhelming majority of a rate that don't necessarily call North Kansas City home. So what we do is we take a 5-mile radius using the same census data that the Attorney General uses every year for estimates, because we know we only do the census every 10 years. So, but annually there's some population estimates that are updated through the ACS, American Community Surveys, I think. I probably have that wrong. But then through our channels, we take a 5-mile radius and we look at the racial makeup of that 5-mile radius. And then what you come to is what they call a disparity impact. Is one race getting stopped more at a higher clip than another? Excuse me. If we take that 5-mile radius data and we extrapolate it against our stop data, proportion of stops versus proportion of population, then you get this disparity impact number. And our African Americans are 1. That's the goal. 25% of the cars that we stop are African Americans, and 25% of the population within the 5-mile radius is African Americans. Our Hispanic and Latino is 0.28, so that's well under what that 1 goal is. And our Asian population is 0.50, so still well under. Whites, just for reference, is 1.56. So based on the data and the 5-mile radius that we use, it's more likely to be stopped in North Kansas City if you're white. Does that make? And then I'll kind of just roll right into the next question, which is what is the top reasons? Let me grab my papers here, stand by. So top reasons for African-American population being pulled over by the North Kansas City Police Department, 50% of them are moving violations. This is last year's data. 50% are moving violations, 19% are equipment, violations, 37% are license violations, and 2% are investigative stops. That's something that we either, if something looks suspicious to us, or we're called to something that looks suspicious to a community member, and we're addressing it. Hispanic and Latino, 58% moving violations, 23% equipment violations, 25% license violations, and 3% investigatory. So kind of right along the same lines. Go to the American Indian numbers are and the way it's presented, we only had 6 stops all of last year for that classification. So it's 33, 33, 33, basically 1, 3, 2, 2, and 2. And some of these numbers, they may add up over 100 if you're kind of putting them down and looking perplexed as why did this go over 100? It's a check all that apply, why the vehicle was stopped. So that's why that's like that. Asian population for us, 58% moving, 24% equipment, 22 license, and 2 investigatory. And you compare that to all, or like compare it to white, 53% moving, 18 equipment, 31% license, and 3% investigatory. Total reasons for all stops, 56% moving, 19 equipment, 32 license violations, and 3 investigatory. And the license violation is probably super light, just because we all know during the pandemic, it was kind of difficult to get into the license bureaus for people to get their tags renewed. And we were very, very generous on that. I'm sure you've seen it. We've seen it. People driving around 3, 4, 5, 6 month expired temp tags, way expired license plates. We were very understanding of the situation. So those numbers may be a little bit lighter than what a typical year is. So all that said, me losing my voice, does that answer the question that how it was intended?
I believe, well, it was very helpful to have those statistics pulled. Thank you for doing that. We have 2 follow-up questions. We'll start with Brandy and then go to Jess.
Hello, Police Chief Freeman. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. So these were my questions.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. So the numbers that you gave about the rates of the people, Black and Indigenous people of color being pulled over, the numbers you gave, that was just within a 5-mile radius of North Kansas City?
Yes, ma'am.
And we didn't include the ones that were like outside. I guess I'm trying to understand do you have the numbers for every single stop? Do you have that rate? I know you said it was bad. Can we get that rate?
I'm just saying, so let me pull the Attorney General's report up.
Okay.
So for example, the population estimates that the Attorney General used for 2019 was that North Kansas City had a total population of 3,923 people over the age of 16.
Okay.
And 3,006 of those are white, 155 of them are African American, 333 are Hispanic, and 234 are Asian. So when you take that proportion of that population and you do it based on the proportion of stops, our disparity index that is reported to the Attorney General was 6.27. Like I said, we want to be around, for African Americans, it's our goal to be around 1. That's not us playing with the numbers. That's just us saying this is not a clear indication of who's driving through our city.
Okay. So do you have the numbers of even the ones that are just driving through the city, regardless of the population? Can we get those numbers?
One more time on the question, make sure I understand, because I think that's what I gave you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Randy, I think I know what you're missing here, which is the numbers. When he said that it wouldn't look great, it's because they're taking the total number compared to how many people live in North Kansas City, and there's just under 5,000. But our daytime population, I used to know this number. Eric, do you remember? Do you know what it is? It's much, much greater. Our daytime population is.
It's around 30 or 35,000.
Yeah. So they're not being compared. The the pullovers are not being compared to 30,000. It's being compared to 5,000, which is why it looks excessive. But when you pull out the 6% of people who actually live here, then the numbers are following the trend that they should. Is that accurate, Chief Freeman?
Yes. I don't think pull out the 6% is the way I would say that. I would, because those stops matter too.
So that's, okay, I see. That's what I'm asking. Even if they don't live within a radius or whatever, I'm just,
we have no idea.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, the form allows us to put, now it allows us to put resident or non-resident. And that was just implemented last year. But other than that, it was just a straight, where did you stop them, time and date? What did you stop them for? What is the race and age of the driver? And then what was a search initiated? And if so, why was the search initiated? And if the search was initiated, was contraband found? That's the racial profiling form that we fill out and submit data to the Attorney General. So we don't have specific address information in that as far as all of our stops go. The only way we would have good, accurate, and it's not even good, accurate address information is if someone was written a ticket.
Okay, so you guys are, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Jess, go ahead.
Can we, by chance, get this data from you, both the Attorney General's data and North Kansas City specific data?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then, yeah, I also have some concerns. Like, I'm a little confused about this, but so you're saying that the number, I mean, obviously the numbers are skewed because it's data, but that our number would technically be much lower than that is what you're saying. But then what about, so is there any way for us to know the people who go through, like what is the percentage of, I guess, how do we obtain that information? How do we go about getting that data and then separating the two? So yes, people who live here, like I get that's based on population, but honestly, I don't think that really matters because we have people coming into our city every single day, and it should be a broader spectrum of how many people are pulled over and what the rates are based on race. I guess I'm not understanding, like I don't care if they live here or don't live here. If they're getting pulled over at a higher rate, it's still not cool.
Yeah, right. And so maybe I just confused the whole point by throwing the Attorney General's request and report in there. But that is when racial profiling first became something of a concern in the state of Missouri. This was the first step to like, let's turn this data in and let's find out if there's a problem, right? So this was 15 years ago or more probably at this point. So each year we report our data to the Missouri Attorney General's office of all of our stops, 100% all of them. So the whole resident, non-resident thing is new. It's kind of not really a moot point, but when the Attorney General then gives us our results back, which just came within the last couple of weeks for the last year, it gives us an opportunity for a response. And when we talk about our community, and like you guys have already said, the 25 to 35,000 people that come to work here, let alone the people that are just driving through, getting one place to another, it's not a good indication of the data that they hold us to, which is that disparity index, is not a good indication of truly who's motoring through North Kansas City.
Because the 4,608 stops last year is the total, regardless of where people were coming from, right?
Correct. They could have been coming from Alaska.
Yes, that's the total.
Gabby, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think my question has kind of been answered. For me, and maybe it's more of a comment than a question, for me, it's looking at that total of 4,600 stops last year and understanding the demographics of those stops. It's not, to me, not necessarily the correlation to residents or anything like that. But if we know that 40% of those 4,600 stops were of Black and brown people, that speaks to the culture of the police organization, and then is possibly to Jess's point earlier about the need for additional training when it comes to anti-racism, sensitivity, whatever you want to call it. That's, I think, for me, that's the data that I want to understand. I don't necessarily, you know,
So can I try to answer that for you real quick?
Of course. Mhm.
Because I think the point is missing just a little bit, and again, my fault on probably the way I tried to explain it. The stops to show at least what we're being judged against, right, at the state level, and to our local community too, but is are you stopping more people outside of the proportion of their population? So to your point is if Black and brown people equated in my 5-mile radius, if they were 20% of the population and they were 60% of our stops, I would say we got something we need to look at.
Mhm.
But what the data shows us is that we're 25% of African Americans in that 5-mile radius, and 25% of our stops are of African Americans. let me get back to, so 2020. So got too many papers here, stand by. So of that, again, in that same 5-mile radius, 25% of the population is Hispanic. They account for 8% of our stops. So that's why you have that number, that 0.32, that disparity index, well under what 1-to-1 should be.
Yeah.
So can I just ask Chief Freeman, in your opinion, do you think there is an issue? I mean, you are the one who has the data in front of you. You're the one who, oversees the police department. Would you say that, in your opinion, there are things that could be worked on and there is potentially room for growth?
So the answer to your question
specifically comes to this racial disparity issue.
No. I think there's always room for growth and there's always room for education. Do I think that our officers are out there using race as a means to stop a motorist? No, I do not.
There's a similar question in the chat. I don't know if someone has seen it. I mean, it's kind of connected. Do you want me to read it, Bess?
Sure, that'd be great, Gabby, thanks.
So this is from Joe. Chief Freeman, thank you for making yourself available tonight and for resident meetings in the past. This is possibly a dumb question, but relevant to the current topic. Do outstanding or previous tickets determine an officer's decision to pull over someone on a minor infraction like equipment violation, i.e. busted tail light, versus letting them off the hook? Is there any official policy on this, or does individual discretion come into play? Thank you, Joe, for your question.
So, and hopefully Joe's still listening because I want to make sure I understand this correctly. If an officer's knowledge of somebody that is wanted in a car and then they choose to pull them over for a minor infraction, Ms. Flores, is that how you interpreted the question also?
Yeah, I mean, like if it seems like Joe and Joe is indicated that he's still here.
Okay.
To me, I interpreted it as exactly that. Like if I see someone go by with a busted tail light and then I don't know, quickly pull them up on my little laptop in my vehicle and determine there's a previous ticket, do I then pursue them or versus letting them off the hook? So is there any policy in place, I think is the real root of the
probably policy driven. I would say no. I think Joe's given us a lot more credit for being able to do efficient police work than we really can do. On occasion, you get familiar with people and you know who may be a suspended driver or who may be have a warrant out for their arrest, but you don't need a pretextual stop to pull those people over. You just know if I see Joe and I know Joe's got a suspended driver's license and I see Joe driving down the street, he doesn't have to commit a traffic violation, another traffic violation in front of me for me to pull Joe over. I already know Joe's violating the law. Now, as far as like, hey, that's a broken taillight, let's run that plate. Let's check and see if that car comes back with warrants before we make a decision to pull it over. We're 4.2 square mile city. We can't get that much accomplished before they're driving out of our town.
One more question I had. Chief Freeman, you mentioned the use of force policy. Is that available to the public anywhere? And if so, where can we find it?
I don't know that it's out there like posted on our website, but it's available upon request. And I will put this down as a request that you asked for it.
Thank you, sir. And then our final question, Gabby, it shows that your hand is still up. Did you have a follow-up question? Okay, no, you're fine.
Sorry.
Final question on the list, unless I have missed some more, Lisa. So if you can fact check that for me, that would be great. Why and how are most tickets on the April court docket issued as traffic stops and end up with more charges?
Okay. That one I'm going to need some clarification on. First and foremost, the municipal court doesn't report through the police department. So I don't exactly know what that means. I did ask when I saw this question come across, I called our court clerk and asked if they just post, someone gets pulled over. I'll pick on Joe again. Joe gets pulled over and he gets a driving while suspended ticket, an insurance ticket, and a registration ticket, let's say. I asked the court clerk, does that just show one charge on the docket and then the other two are embedded? She said, no, all the charges show up on the docket. So I don't have a good knowledge of the court docket and how it is. Honestly, I don't know that I've seen one in 10 years. So whomever asked the question, please clarify and help me try to get to the point what you're trying to get to.
It might have been a community question. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, Jessica. I don't know the answer. I don't know.
I took questions and I am pretty sure this was a community question and I don't know who it originated with. I got it from a member that got it from a community member. So I'm sorry, I can't track that down.
That's fine. If they're listening, and just, I would say just contact the court clerk and get some clarification directly from them.
And that was me that submitted it, Tara. It came through a community question via a Facebook group online that they wanted some clarification on. I don't have any background on it though.
Okay, contact the court clerk.
So if it's okay, I do have a couple of community questions that weren't included in this. I think I sent them too late. Is that all right? Chief Freeman, that's up to you.
I'm sorry. I was waiting for a moderator to I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't get those on because I had already submitted the final. So it might be something, is it okay if we reschedule or meet or send the questions to him and get back directly? I just want to make sure that I'm.
Community members who submitted them?
What?
To the community members who submitted them or in like a public manner?
I tell you what, I'll do my best. If it requires like research and data, then I'll try to get it to you guys at a later time.
Okay, it was mostly just about filing. So I think they're actually, so if a citizen comes in to file a police report, what is the normal procedure?
Comes in to file a police report.
About any given thing. They had a traffic incident, somebody harassed them on the sidewalk, but they walk in to file a police report. Like, what is the procedure that you guys follow there?
They'll be contacting the dispatcher. That's who the front facing person is when they walk into the station. The dispatcher will confirm where it occurred. make sure it's in North Kansas City. As we all know, that sometimes gets confused quite often with Kansas City north of the river. If it is in North Kansas City, then we have our officers are broke down into districts. So we want to dispatch the correct district officer to come and meet that person. But if they're at the station, we'll come to the station, we'll meet them, take them into an interview room, get the information that we need for the report, give them a referral form that gives them the report number in case they need to get a copy of it in the future. And if it's something that requires follow-up as far as an investigation goes, then those come into the investigation sergeant and they assign them to one of our investigators for follow-up. If it's a crash, then generally there's not a lot of follow-up going on with crash reports.
Okay, so for the sake of transparency, this question comes actually from, it was my way of breaking it down into an easier question for you, but it comes from multiple community members who feel that in the past they have been dissuaded from filing police reports for various reasons, whether they had an incident, riding a bike and then came in, they were essentially told along the lines of like, well, there's nothing really there to investigate, and an actual formal report was never filed. My follow-up to that was, what are the factors that determine whether or not a police report is worthy of being filed? And who makes that decision? Just every officer based on their
the
opinion?
person who is making the complaint should be the person who has the final decision on whether or not they want to fulfill the police report or not. A lot of times when our officers can get that information from them, they will give them information on what's the next course of action. And sometimes, and I'm not speaking specifically to any of the situations that you're bringing up, but if the officer says, here's what's going to happen, we're going to go arrest John Doe for the crime that you have alleged. Once we arrest John Doe, we're going to subpoena you to come to court and testify against John Doe. And then many times, not all the times, a few times is probably a better term, the complaining person just doesn't want that course of action. And it comes back to, I just wanted to let you know what has happened. So we take that information, it goes into the incident logs in the CAD, in our computer-aided dispatch system, just a report's not generated in that case. So if there is ever a situation where if a community member alleges a crime has occurred and our officer says, I'm not taking your report, I want to know about it.
I will reach out to those community members, because there were 3 who reached out with very similar stories along those lines, that they came in to file a report and were basically told there wasn't enough and they weren't going to do it. I guess another follow-up to that is, every single police report filed required to be investigated?
No.
Okay, and then whose discretion is that? Is that based on some things you put into a computer program or system?
It's based on what information is provided at the time. Is there any leads to go on? If you make a report that your car window was broken and your 30 cents change was taken out of the console, you don't know who did it. We don't know who did it. That's not going to get a lot of time in investigations.
Okay, and then just for the sake of getting their voice out there, I think they just want to be clear that if somebody comes in to file a police report, regardless of if there is actionable evidence, it should be filed just in case there is a secondary issue, which I think was kind of the concern if somebody had an issue on a bike and then there was, no record of that. And for them, they would like that record to be, which I think is the point of filing the police report.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was just their questions. I think that was it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you again, Chief Freeman. We really appreciate the intentionality you put, excuse me, into answering all of our questions. I know we put you through a ringer tonight, but it's really helpful to know we have a partner in our community.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, well, Chief Freeman, please go enjoy the rest of your evening. We thank you. If you'd like to stick around, we'd love to have you, but we understand that you've been talking to us for about an hour now.
All right, thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, friends, I'm going to go ahead and move us into the next part of our agenda, and that's just general updates from any of the groups that met over the last month in our smaller 3-person groups, if you have any updates.
Are we skipping voting today?
Tell me more about voting.
I think it was like the first, I'm just looking at the agenda. It was the first
It
thing.
was the first item. I thought maybe you just wanted to get Chief Freeman on right away so that we could get him off as soon as possible. But it's on the agenda to make it official and have election for co-chairs and secretary.
I think that was updated outside of my agenda, so that's why I skipped over it. I'm so sorry. Jess, you want to take this one over while I get the right agenda pulled up?
I was just going to volunteer myself as secretary. So, because I know somebody else got stuck with it. And honestly, I think for my own personal, like following up on everything, rewatching the videos and taking notes and stuff will be super helpful. Also, I do intend potentially by next meeting to rewatch every single EIC meeting we've had and then take some notes, because I do know, like, I don't remember specifically what prompted this. I think Tara said something in like meeting 2 or 3 that like popped into my head the other day. And I'm like, oh, we haven't, talked about that and however many. So I just wanted to go through and do all those, but I would volunteer myself as tribute for secretary.
Is there anyone else that would like to throw their name in the hat?
I know it's a great position, guys.
Thanks, Jessica.
Do you want me to call roll?
Yes, please.
For the
Oh,
team.
yeah, about it. Okay.
Jessica Loya,
Yep.
Brandy Alexander,
Yes.
Daniel Trotter,
Yes.
Gabby Flores,
Yes.
April Jones,
Yes, even though it throws a wrench into my plans to nominate you as chair, but yes.
Ditto.
It's all right. I think secretary helps me process the information better, like during and then after.
Bess Bailey,
Absolutely.
Yvonne Salinas,
Yes.
and Tara Adler.
Yes.
Secretary Loya.
Congratulations.
All right.
Any
So we-
nominations? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
We have co-chairs, so I just want a little direction from you. How would you like me to take roll? If we have 3 people nominated, just do all 3 and I'll keep track of the numbers. No, I won't. Jessica will, because she is the secretary.
All right. New duties.
Is that how you do it?
Sure. That sounds like a great option.
Okay, so are there any nominees for co-chair?
I nominate April.
Does April accept this nomination? Because that's one of our meeting norms that we said, okay.
Consent is important.
I'd like to nominate Tara. She'll accept.
Accept. I want to nominate Brandy.
I accept.
Really hard.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? I think I don't know Robert's rules well enough, probably. So our 2 current co-chairs, it was just a temporary gig. And so, okay. So me personally, it feels like the courteous thing would be to ask our co-chairs if they want to continue.
I was
being
gonna ask
co-chairs.
Beth.
And if not, then, I mean, but I don't know, is there like, maybe there's an officialer process to this that I don't understand? Because I feel like you guys really only got, 3 or 4 months of leading this team, and maybe you wanted, you either want an exit strategy or you want to continue on leading this group. And so I feel like that should be heard first before we nominate new people. I don't know.
I think our intention was we needed someone to put together an agenda and just be the voice of leading the meeting rather than not having one. And when Brandy and I initially agreed, it was with the knowledge that we would do this until we had bylaws in place for a voting procedure. That being said, I would be more than happy to continue as co-chair, but if someone really wants to step up and feels like a calling for that, I'm also fine to step down.
I'm still very interested in being co-chair. I do enjoy it. But yeah, and like Beth said, it's nice to give everyone an opportunity too, so.
Do we vote on this? Is this like a yearly vote thing? Is that how that works? I don't remember how we put that out in the law.
It's in the bylaws. I've got them pulled up. Give me just a second and I will do a quick control F to find out.
That's what I was looking at too.
Okay. I don't actually know if we specified if we vote like annually or just when we overturn.
We did specify,
Okay.
and I think it might be the case that it's a little bit weird at first because of how terms are ending. But we did specify that in the bylaws.
I found the language. So it's section 4 of Article 6, officers, the election process. At the first meeting of the new calendar year, the EIC will elect officers. Self-nominations and nominations with consent of the nominee shall come from the EIC members. The officers shall be elected in order of co-chairs and then secretary. Oops, we messed that one up. In the event of a tie vote, one revote shall take place among the tied vote receivers. In the event of a second tie, the officer shall be decided by the flip of a coin. The election process shall be administered at the meeting of the city council or city staff liaison.
Okay, I remembered the you have to consent piece for sure. So how do we want to do? Do we want to start over? You guys tell me.
I'm sticking with secretary. That's all I know. I think everybody would be a great chair and co-chair, honestly. Also, in my opinion, the way this committee works is we're mostly collaborative and like it isn't like it's an extra duty with making the agenda and whatnot. But like what other duties potentially like talking to council? Like if we ever had something that we needed to bring directly to city council, they would probably be the person who sits in on that city council meeting and explains it. I think everybody would do a great job, so.
And just to be clear, this term would end December 31st, and then we would do this again in January, right? So there's opportunity for 2 new co-chairs come January.
So we're really just talking a few months, half a year, right?
Yeah, a few meetings.
I'm sorry if I messed things up.
Very thoughtful, I think. That was a good, I agree with Gabby that if, the folks who were in that position will talk, I think they've already done this, but we should definitely consider, the fact that they were in that position and done a really nice job. So I agree with that.
I will gladly recant my agreeing to let Bess and Brandy continue if you guys want to. I like that we're collaborative anyway, so it makes it, if you all are passionate about wanting to be in place still, I would love to have you guys as co-chairs. So, but thank you, Daniel, for the nomination.
Bess, what say ye?
I'm in if you're in.
I'm in if you're in.
All right.
I guess we're in.
I'm still secretary though, right? We're not, because I know April took one for the team on that. And then honestly, as we've gone, I'm like, I think I would do well as a secretary and I would actually remember everything better. So I just wanted to get her out of that position.
April, do you want to take it back from Jess?
If you want it, April. Okay.
No, it's the note taking and all that's not really my thing. I was kind of more interested in being co-chair.
So we have three votes here then, right? Okay. So do we do this where you get to vote twice, do you think? Once?
That's what I was wondering too. Because there's 2 chairs, so 2 votes per person.
I think that makes the most sense, but we did not specifically outline it in our bylaws. So maybe that's our first regret of this committee.
So we each would get a vote twice for your top 2 candidates. And then, yeah, and if it, like you read, Lisa, if it's a tie, that flip of a coin.
Yeah, okay, so everybody's gonna get 2 votes. Let me write this down so I don't mess it up. Yes, in April. Okay, so when I call, just, I'm gonna be a little slow, so bear with me. Everybody has 2 votes. We'll vote for Brandy first. And let me call roll. Jessica,
Yes.
Brandy,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Gabby.
I'm confused, but yes.
I don't want you to be confused. Let me back up, okay? You get 2 votes.
Yeah,
We have 3 people. Everyone gets 2 votes. We are voting now, yes or no, for Brandy Alexander.
okay, okay.
So basically you can only say yes twice.
I hate this.
Yeah, and there's, yes, yes.
Okay. April,
Yes.
Bess,
Yes.
Yvonne,
Yes.
and Tara.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody has used 1 of 2 votes. You have 1 vote left. Okay, we are gonna go to Bess Bailey. Jessica, we're voting on Bess Bailey.
I hate this so much. I think Bess has done such a good job. No, because I nominated April. And I think she'd also do a great job.
Brandy,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Gabby,
Yes.
April,
No.
Bess,
I've already forgotten. This is for me. I'm so sorry. It's really embarrassing.
So is that a
We're
yes?
voting on me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yvonne
Yes.
and Tara.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's like the majority has used up their second vote, so there's really.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
it's
6 to 2.
guesses, so. I think there was only 2 people that said no.
So it would have been, 2 for April, 8 for Brandy, and 6 for Bess.
All right.
And then we revote again in like a couple of months, guys. Like really soon.
All right, friends. Okay, now that we have gone back into the right order, any updates from groups, communications or website, strategic plan, or people of North Kansas City, and any groups that I might not be including?
I have not received any voicemails or emails. They'll be directly sent to me, and I have not received any. I kind of maybe this month would like one of you guys to go ahead and call, leave a message and email me just to check it again. So they checked it. I'm sure it's working, but just go ahead and call me. Also, for communications, we did get the approval from Victoria that we can be present at Parks and Recs functions. We can have a table if we choose, we can hand out flyers, but we are welcome to attend their events to kind of get the word out before the events happen. She gave us her full blessing.
We all received an email yesterday from somebody, and I only had a chance to skim through it, but it was something about getting something ready for the upcoming newsletter, maybe? Am I correct? I can find it.
No, you are correct. That was sent to us from Eric. It's Kim Nakamoto that suggested she puts that newsletter together. There is a word count and can do a photo. I think it's a really good opportunity. A lot of people read those. So I would suggest that we take them up on their offer.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good
So,
idea.
Could we use our flyer in there also that was made?
I can check with her.
I can't I don't recall exactly what it looked like at this point,
This is
but
Eric, some kind of graphic, but we just have a limited amount of space on the page. That's the only thing. But if you wanted to put the logo or something, that was what we were suggesting.
okay.
And Jess, did you say that everyone got that email?
I'm not sure. It popped up in my email. I thought it was to all of us.
Was.
But I actually can't seem to find it anymore.
Yeah, it was
I
a
wrote
forward
the
from Eric.
email. I wrote the email. It was kind of forwarding it from Kim, and I said, yeah, we're looking for around 200 words. Could include a graphic or a photo or of the committee or whatever you might like, and whoever might be producing that, Kim would like it by the end of May.
Great, thanks, Eric. My email is sorting things into weird places, so I don't know if I got that, but I can definitely.
I see you on it. I looked it up when you said that. You are on there.
It's called EIC article.
And the sender is Eric Herlin.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, any other updates from different subcommittees and groups?
I was just going to ask a quick question. Do we want to take a group photo? And if so, would everybody be okay with meeting at Colony Cultivar? That we have a very talented photographer who actually has a little business there. And I still have like a photo session with him from, somebody bought it for me for Christmas and I will probably never use it. So if we could get a group photo out of that, I think that would be awesome. Also, he would probably just do it because he's a lovely human. He already told me, he was like, it's fine. But if we wanted to do like a committee photo, that could be something we could include as a
meeting. Does that count as a meeting? And then we have to
You
publish?
wouldn't.
No,
No,
we
you wouldn't
say
be
nothing
talking
to each other.
Yeah,
We
you
just
wouldn't be
don't-
talking.
We just walk in quietly and he'll tell us where to stand and nobody communicates with anybody. We don't make eye contact.
Yeah, but you can communicate. I mean, like I could have a party and you could all come over, guys. It's not like we can never be in the same room together. It's just you're not going to talk about plans that you're doing going forward. So we can all, we can all hang out.
Okay.
We just can't be making decisions, out of meeting time.
If we're all cool with a photo, I will shoot him a message as soon as we hop off and see if he has any upcoming availability and if he'd be willing. I don't know if it has like a photographer or something. I don't know how that works. I know you guys all got your city council pictures taken and they all seemed like similar. So I didn't know if there was somebody to do that or if we could just do it ourselves.
Stephen just took us upstairs to the brick wall and took a quick picture. It was not all that. But
Okay.
I would just suggest that I not be in it because I'm just the liaison. So my position is
Kind of like saying we're going to have a class picture, but not put the teacher in it, right? I feel like you should be in it. Why wouldn't you?
I'm not a voting member.
But you
But I
are
will
Like a little graphic that says
people
not
can
voting.
contact you. Yeah, we could specify that because people can still contact you and talk to you about
I'll just hold up a note that says, I don't vote. But you can contact me. No, it's fine.
I feel
I'll
like
do it
Lisa might be
yours.
just getting out of the picture.
I know. Trying not to be in this. We can get you a sash that says liaison and then it'll just be really clear to everybody.
I'll pull out my tiara.
Okay.
Great,
Okay.
we'll all make little signs that say she can't vote. So
And
it's really clear that you're not voting.
Mhm.
All right, and then, well, if there are no other announcements or no other updates from different groups, then that takes us into announcements. And I believe someone emailed me about discussing meeting in person versus meeting virtually.
Yes, that's number 8 on the agenda. I asked that be put in there, but it looks like Brandy might have something from before.
Yeah, sorry. So about the strategic plan. So Tina is on board to help. The question is, how deep is this strategic plan going to be? Because there's time compensation if she has to take off from the Y. 2, I mean, if it's just 3 people and we can bring it back to the group, it's a half a day max. And we can have that shelled out and then bring it back. And then whatever the group says, take that back to Tina and maybe work through that. And then how long are we looking at for this plan for strategic planning? Are we looking at 3 to 5 years? Or do y'all want to do more smaller scale, like a 1 to 2, or, you know what I mean? Or 1 to
By
3.
the time we've collected all the data and we actually have the plan ready to go to council?
Say that again.
So are you saying like 1 to 2 years, as in 1 to 2 years, we have it, all the data collected, we have finished the strategic plan and passed it on to council? Is that what you're saying?
So your strategic plan is a map of what you hope to accomplish. So we're going to present, once the group approves the strategic plan, we're going to have to go to, I feel like we're going to have to go to the council with it.
We do, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if we're going to have any data off the bat, but we have vision of where we want to go. So basically what we're doing is just creating the vision of what we'd like to see. And it's a workable, it's a breathable document, so we can update it and change it as necessary.
So because Tina has some background here, instead, I don't think she needs to be on the subcommittee, getting into it with us and looking through the data, but just maybe that we could invite her to one of our meetings, and then everybody, has the information that they would like to ask her that maybe she could advise us on, how we jump in.
Okay, so then maybe I misunderstood, because I thought she had to do it, but I know she's willing, period. I thought we had to have a consultant. Let me say it that way.
No,
I think we have to. Go ahead.
Sorry, last meeting, we talked about the need that none of us really know how to do a strategic plan. And none of us maybe have not only the expertise, but the bandwidth to be able to do it quickly. And so we were actually thinking to put together even just, if we need to secure resources for a consultant, Tina or Joey Schmoey or whomever, to help us develop this, that we would have to go to council to ask for resources. I'm just going to hypothesize. Let's say a consultant, Tina, for example, is going to charge us $600 for a half-day retreat. In the end of that retreat, we come out with a 3-year strategic plan. I'm just making that up. We would have to take that proposal to council and ask for that money, right, to implement. There is not an RFP process per Eric last time, that it would just be a services kind of engagement, right?
Right, but Tina says this was her. She is okay with, if it's a half a day and we can come out with a plan, she's not interested in charging anything. And I don't think, it's just 3 of us, so it's not going to take us long. We as a committee just need to decide, or just the strategic plan committee need to decide how long we want this to go out. I feel like since some of our terms some of our terms aren't lengthy like that. So I feel like
I'm only here till January, and I've got an outline of a strategic plan, and we were just weren't sure what to do with having Tina involved. And if that's going to cost money, then that's something that we'd have to consider, if that's where we want to spend whatever resources we have. But yeah, I've got a strategic plan started. I think Eric sent us a copy of the city council's strategic plan. I don't know that it's something, it took us 3 meetings just to get our bylaws done. I don't think it's something that we need to spend, $600 and 3 full days on, or anything like that.
And I agree. And so in the conversation we had with Tina, she said we could get it done in a half day. So I was just presenting what the conversation was. But yeah, I agree. If you already have the skeleton and everything ready to go, and you've got all the stuff, April, then we can move forward and just have Tina there to help us, guide us through the process. Half day and we're done. And then next meeting, we could bring it back and tweak it as needed.
There are currently 3 hands. We'll go April, Tara, then Lisa.
No, I'm sorry, I forgot to take mine back down, so you can skip me.
Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, Brandy, you were asking how long we want the strategic plan to go out from this point, is kind of what you were trying to.
Right, because it's going to cover a certain amount of time, and then
my opinion would be to do a shorter term one to kind of outline how we get to a longer term strategic plan. So there's a lot of stuff we want to accomplish and like get off the ground soon. And then we can start to have vision and strategize for longer term strategy the next time.
I like that.
I don't know if it's a year and a half or something, you know, or 18 months, but
I think an 18-month, a year to 2 year plan will do us justice.
yeah. And then like one of the bullet points or like one of the things that we want to accomplish, to Jess's point, is, you know, data collecting and having a time frame on that, and who, you know, start assigning who's going to be working on what tasks in the strategic plan, and when we want to accomplish each of those bullet points by.
Okay. I like that idea. If y'all are comfortable with it, we can roll with what April has said, what Tara has said, and then we can move forward and have something for y'all by the next meeting. Thumbs up, Lisa.
I think that sounds good. Before we finalize, are there, I know Lisa, you had something, Jess, your hand was up, and Gabby's hand is up.
Yep, Tara already talked about what I was going to talk about, so I'm good.
I completely spaced, so clearly it wasn't that important.
Great, and then Gabby.
So this is maybe just a please consider that while I appreciate a free donation of someone's time and gift and treasure, we as a city should be paying for that service, especially if she is POC. I don't know if she is or not, but I just feel like, you know, we wouldn't ask for a free trash disposal or free, you know, I just, you know, then the city's going to keep thinking that everything's free. And, you know, if they're serious about DEI, there's going to have to eventually be some investment at some point, you know, and this is just a little bit of seed money to help, you know, have something really a solid product. And obviously, Brandy, if she, you know, you've seen her work, her quality work, then, you know, I mean, I just kind of feel like it shouldn't be for free. But if you know, at least that maybe just this initial one, but if we're headed toward a longer term one that we're going to need help with, we should be paying for those services.
And that's kind of what she said. She was just like, you know, half a day, I'm not about to charge off for that. But if I have to be pulled away for days and days, then yeah, but she's very supportive of this committee. And I think, you know, she's willing. So I will let y'all decide that. I can definitely get her something nice. You know, she's 2 doors down from me in the office. So I can get her, she likes Starbucks. That's her jam. So if y'all get her a little Starbucks, she's nice with that. She loves that.
Jess, and then Daniel.
I was just going to say, did we already break down Beaverton's strategic plan or any other city's strategic plan, and then kind of draw from that what we might need? Like, I know we kind of did, but like, did we ever go into detail? And I know I think the one we were looking at was also, I think we were just looking at Beaverton as a whole, no, but we never actually dove into their like 3 strategic plans. And then, because they've had one, they've already had follow-up, and then they've had follow-up again. So I was just wondering.
We did the first chunk of theirs, right? Because there's no point in us really at this point unpacking their, you know, year 8 strategic plan, because we're at year 1. So we did, when we analyzed, myself and Tara and Brandy, we kind of broke down just the elements, the core things that they had in it. And there was notes from that, and I can recirculate those.
Okay.
We got stuck that we couldn't get any conversation with them. So, and the amount of detail available for that year 1 or that 18-month plan wasn't as robust, because they have a lot more new stuff out, right? So year 5 to 8 or whatever.
So I only saw like year 1 and then the year 1 follow-up, and the year 1 follow-up was like a book. Like, it was like everything that they had done. That was the one I think I was referring to, where it broke down everything that they discussed in the strategic plan, and then how they implemented it, how it worked, what if it was effective, if it wasn't, what they need to do, essentially going into creating the second version of the strategic plan. So
Yeah,
and
it had what we looked at, and when we met was it had a breakdown of like, did they accomplish that? And if they didn't, kind of what steps were still left. And, you know, it was like they had it color coded kind of to like, were they successful in that point? And so they had a lot of good points in it. I also did forward, Independence sent me their strategic plan. And so I sent that over to the people that were working on the strategic plan as a guide point to kind of see how they have it laid out. It may or may not be what we're looking for, but at least an example of what another city is doing.
Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if Brandy could remind me just about Tina's qualifications, or you know what influenced her to help us out, and what she would be bringing through that process. I appreciate the reminder.
Okay, so Tina is a very much if you look up in the dictionary about DEI, her name is the definition. I'm going to say that because Tina has right now, she's in the works of planning a diversity, equity, inclusion luncheon. She's very passionate about just all sorts of issues regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's the executive director at the North Kansas City YMCA. She's working with a New American Welcome Center. She brought that to the North Kansas City YMCA. I mean, she's showing us as her staff, her team, how to do strategic planning. And she's just very intentional with her efforts. I think she brings a lot to the table when it comes to making sure we're using the right language, making sure that no one's left out. Kind of sort of, you can think of her as another Jess, even though we only get one Jess, but she's making sure that everyone's included. So, man, there's so much I could say. I just think we're in good hands, is what I can say. Again, Tina has served on a variety of different boards, and
Did you get her resume, Danielle? I think I sent it to everybody, but I might have messed up. I don't know. When I hit reply all, I might have hit reply all from before when you were like, but I'm not positive.
Thanks for reminding me. I will definitely check on that.
If not, just send it to me. I was looking for it.
And I will say she's a part of the YMCA of the USA. So a lot of our higher ups and like ERG work, which is employee resource group. So we have a African American resource group, Asian Pacific Islander, LGBTQ. She's that. I believe she might be the head of the LGBTQ group. I might be saying that wrong, but she knows her stuff. So I think we're in good hands. But yeah, you may want to check out her resume.
I just found it. So that was really helpful, Jess. Thank you for.
Sorry.
So for some reference to, as the committee was being developed, Tony Saper, a council member here in Ward 1, actually reached out to her via email, kind of explained what the committee could be, because we didn't really, I don't think it was actually created at that point. We were just kind of in the planning stages, but she immediately got back to him that she was, excited about the direction of the committee, like that she was ready and willing to jump in and help out if we needed. So that's why I brought her up last time. But she does have quite an extensive resume.
Is it possible to remind us who's on that little micro committee?
I believe it's me, April, and Brandy.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that she is your executive director. I feel differently about the payment situation now. I thought she was like a consultant. I'm sorry. I was like, I just don't like asking people to do stuff for free, but the Y is a community partner, and it makes sense. So sorry to get us off track again.
You're perfectly fine. But yeah, Tina was the one who encouraged me to apply for this amazing position. So yeah, I think we're in good hands, and I'm excited to keep moving forward. I know we also need to do a report out on the website. Danielle, I apologize. I assumed that once we did our report out, that was the layout and we were gonna go with it. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. What else do we need for that?
I think the layout's pretty straightforward. I mean, at this point, I think just some substance for the committee. And I think that's the direction we're going, you know, with your meeting with Tina, and just that strategy is really going to bring a lot of content to the page, other than just a few, you know, little snippets about us. But that's really going to be the meat of the website, in my opinion, you know, for people to understand what this is about and what the goals are. So for me, that's what we'll put on there, or that's what our goal should be to get on the web page.
All right. And I know we mentioned the logo. Sorry, I just have a couple, this is it, but the logo, I know, do we need to create that? Or is that something that the North Kansas City government, so to speak, has resources for?
Is that for me?
No,
Oh.
Eric, Lisa,
Yeah.
somebody.
The city of North Kansas City has a logo, but I thought you all designed something. Am I wrong? I thought you had come up with some kind of a logo for the committee.
Yeah, well, I put that flyer together, and then I added the North Kansas City logo onto it. But we haven't really come up with our own logo.
Okay, sorry, I was mistaken.
No worries. So since we don't have a logo, is there any, Lisa or Eric, is there any way we can resource out, or does anybody in the group have those skills to make a logo?
Yes, said she has Canva.
I could also do some mild graphic design. I'm just not like super confident in it. I have Freddie's graphic designer, could just ask her. It depends on what we're going for. If we can get some ideas as to what we would like to be included in the logo, what the message of the logo is going to be, then yeah, maybe I can put some things together. April, if you want to help me, you did pretty great on formatting that. All right. I think me and April can tackle this, but like we do need some input on like as far as like what we want the logo to represent, which I mean, I know is us, but like what elements would you maybe like to see in the logo? Like, is there anything specific, like imagery elements, things like that you would like to see, colors?
Have you guys seen the new mural on Swift?
Yes.
A gray, white, super cool. Even just a photo of that would be cool. My question is, can we go live, Daniel? Like now, even with a bare bones, you know, nothing. And then you don't have privileges, right? You would have to get it to Steven to load, right?
Yeah, I think we were just gonna send him the content at the end of the day. That was really all they needed. And then they could format it with maybe a little bit of direction from us. And I think just based on the mock-up we did, that was probably sufficient, if not maybe a little bit of overkill. As long as that content is agreed upon, I think we could submit it. Does that sound good? If you want me to, I can bring that back up and we could vote on it. And because I like I said, I think there are just like 5 or 6 important things that we have outlined at this point that we can just get there. So if we want to do that, I'd be happy to bring it back up.
Let's go ahead and do that. I also want to just do a time check. It is 8:49. We've been meeting for about 1 hour and 50 minutes. In our bylaws, we did try to keep it under 2 hours.
So very quickly, if we could have a discussion about meeting in person, because if we don't decide tonight, then we can't do it next time, I believe, I would guess. Maybe that's not true. The weather is nicer. I didn't know if we wanted to have, we'll meet at the park in person, if the weather is agreeable on our day, or do it online. And Stephen, I don't even know if that's an option. Like if we choose, hey, we're going to meet at the park on our next meeting time, but then it's, you know, raining, do we have the option of going online, weather dependent, or no? Does that make it too up in the air?
Well, Yeah, pretty much. I kind of need to know what I'm in for before I try to put something together. I honestly, doing something outside, we don't necessarily have equipment. We have cameras and stuff installed in City Hall. I don't know how I would do something outdoors. We don't have a decent PA. The one that we have is kind of defunct at this point. So if you wanted to have it recorded for broadcast, my technical advice would be not to try to do it outside, but of course it's up for you guys to decide where you want to do it.
So I guess that would be up to you guys, whether it's important to you that we meet in a place which everybody feels safe during COVID, which would be outside, meaning that it wouldn't be taped and put online, or is it more important that it is taped and put online? Maybe that's just something you guys need time to discuss. Eric, what are the rules? Could we, as long as we put it out 48 hours ahead of time, can we change our meeting location or mode?
Yes, you could do that.
So maybe you guys think about it.
So like
I'd
personally,
like, if I could throw one thing out for your consideration, just for whenever you might decide to start meeting live again, if you decided to do it indoors, you know, with the camera and microphones and such. The Planning Commission has always met on the first Thursday of the month. That hasn't really, there wasn't a conflict when you all have been meeting virtually. But if you start meeting live, I think that could very well, you know, present a problem. That the Planning Commission meets at 6 o'clock on the first Thursday of the month. They don't meet every month, but they do often meet the first Thursday. So we might ask you to consider moving your regular meeting date. It would work well for staff if it was to be the second or fourth week of the month. Not necessarily Thursday, but the second or fourth week of the month. That's the off city council week. So that's just a thought as well as you think about beginning to meet again in person. If you might consider we'd ask you to consider a different week of the month.
to be honest, I feel like it's important that our community sees us.
Same.
Because they need to know that we're here. And our main concern for one of the meetings we talked about was access. So honestly, but this is just how I feel. I just think we should keep it virtual if we have to.
So even if we couldn't make the meeting live, is there any way we could just record a meet, like it could still be posted to the YouTube channel later? It wouldn't be live and accessible for everybody as we're doing it like these are. But even if we did meet in like a public location, like if we met somewhere and just had it recorded with, like a camera or a phone or something, could we do something like that and then at least have it posted to the city's YouTube channel so that people could still see us and like have that accessibility? Also, I know we have the closed captions now on meetings. Like I just agree with Brandy that I think having the ability to see us, to be able to read what we're saying is pretty important.
So when you say it's important for them to see us, I guess my initial thought is not what you were saying, which was to meet in the park where people can literally see us versus
comfortable. So I don't know how many people will be comfortable. Like I think maybe we need some community input on that if they're comfortable with that.
Okay, so it sounds like no changes as of tonight. So we can think about it and talk about it next month.
I can share my screen real quick, just with the things we had on the website that we talked about. Does that sound good?
Go for it, Daniel.
All right. Should be sharing right now. So this is what we have, Equity and Inclusion Committee as a heading. Does everyone think that that looks okay at the top of the webpage for our committee? And do we need to vote on each of these things, or should we just talk about it really quickly and then vote on it?
I just asked the question.
Dana, why don't you do a preview of it and then we can open it up for like any questions and then approval.
Got it. So based on what we had last time, I think at this time, it would be best to have this as our heading and then our mission statement. This was taken from the mission statement in the Google Docs. We were talking about putting a picture of our team here. That would obviously be something we could really easily put here if we do get the group picture taken with Jessica's contact. We could also put the flyer here as a placeholder, but I think it would just be nice to have, you know, a graphic for people to look at and just put some color on the page. And finally, below that, we were just talking about helpful links at this time for what people can access, from equity and inclusion theme and just things that we've provided. So like links to our bylaws, the link to the city YouTube page. An inbox for public comments may be a little bit difficult at this point, just since that's a little more involved, but we can talk about that. Obviously, contact information. If we begin to have events, a calendar of events was mentioned. And then there was some talk of highlighting city jobs, just other municipal related openings that there may be. But yeah, this is pretty much what we've got so far. And then I think it will become more robust as we build out our plan.
I think it works. And we just, like you said, build it out moving forward. What does everyone else think?
I agree. I think it looks great. I think the frame is really accessible and will be easy for people of North Kansas City to access.
I have a question about the inbox for public comments. Is that to send directly to us, or is that a running comment that everybody reads?
I was under the impression that that would be something that was just a way to open up dialogue for the public to our committee. So be more, yeah, just personal communication to our committee to consider. And we could obviously express that in some sort of paragraph about that if someone were to post something.
So it would be just a message sent to us, not visible to everyone that visits the site. Is that correct?
That's how I envisioned it, but no, you bring up a good point, because I don't know if we
Well, no, I that's actually why I wanted to, I think that would be a good way to do it, because I wasn't sure if it meant it would be posted kind of like a Facebook post where everybody reads it. And I think that would be very difficult to monitor.
Yeah,
for.
I think it would be private for our.
Okay, got it. Yep, that's what I was just checking on.
And wherever those get collected, whether it's some sort of city email address inbox, I mean, I don't know exactly how that would get stored and hosted by the website, but that's just kind of the breadcrumb trail we have to go down here.
I think it would most likely go to me like the other items. And then my plan is to immediately send it out to everybody, anything I get that's EIC related.
Okay. I think all of the items in that bulleted list are really easy to get a hold of. So I can type that all up and then just send it out to the group for Kim or for the website team to put on the website. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Cool. I will do that.
All right. To wrap us up in the next minute, it sounds like right now we're still going to pause on meeting in person until we can figure out a way to make it accessible to our community, because that's one of our goals to our group. And are there any other announcements?
Did we land on, so we talked about the article, but is anyone planning to work on that? I'm happy to help with that if someone wants to tag team that with me.
I'll jump in on that with you.
Okay, perfect.
By the end of May, correct? Right?
Yep, end of May. When does it get published? Eric, Stephen, do you know when that'll hit mailboxes? Was that in the email?
Yeah, it'll hit mailboxes, I believe, end of June.
End of June, okay. So I kind of wonder if we, maybe at our next meeting then, we could discuss what Parks and Recs events or maybe not even our next one. Maybe we try to decide who's going to be at events in July then, or through the summer. And we'll just say in the article that we plan to be on site for the Parks and Recs event at a like tabling, just if we're accessible to the community is kind of what I was thinking.
And I think there are Parks and Rec events before we meet again, and I think it would be okay to discuss who was going to be there with flyers through email. I don't think that would be, I mean, I think that would be perfectly okay.
Okay.
Anyone move to adjourn?
Move to,
So moved. Second.
Would you like me to call roll?
Can we just do an all in favor?
I'll
And
say, yeah. Mhm.
let's do it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
See everyone.
Bye.
Bye.